And I want to thank Ms Crozier for presenting this motion. It certainly has the national support, and I also want to thank Ms Purcell for her, outlining so many of the qualities of MICA paramedics and the many challenges that they face in the role, and for her support of this motion. But according to reports in the Herald Sun, Ambulance Victoria is considering removing single responder MICA units from regional areas, including Swan Hill, Shepparton, Wodonga and Wangaratta in northern Victoria. Larger areas like Bendigo, which are served by 2-member MICA ambulances, would also be affected by the reallocation of resources. Despite ongoing ambulance delays, the Labor government is considering cutting back MICA services further, even though the most recent annual report shows the number of MICA responders has fallen. Just 2 weeks ago, a member of my family who lives in Victoria had their heart stop. They were at work at the time, and thankfully another local just dropped in for a chat and was there when the incident happened. An ambulance was 45 minutes away, but within minutes, a MICA arrived on the scene. They knew exactly what to do, and rather than going to the local hospital, they sent them straight to Bendigo Hospital, and they followed behind. A pacemaker was put in the very next day. So the actions and quick response of that paramedic helped save their life. This is just one story of someone that I know, but there are many, many more. And on behalf of my family, I would like to say thank you to the MICA paramedics that serve our state. According to news reports, MICA responders who are trained for complex and serious incidents face low morale, burnout, and are regularly being called out to fill gaps in the regular ambulance service. And this motion notes that Victorian lives are being put at risk by the ongoing crisis within Ambulance Victoria that has seen a reduction in mobile intensive care ambulance or MICA services, involving a drop in the number of MICA paramedics, large parts of the Victorian community being regularly left without MICA coverage, low morale and burnout amongst MICA paramedics, a disastrous rostering system and insufficient funding to pay for shifts, and an ageing fixed-wing aircraft fleet and issues, and an overworked and understaffed pilot workforce. Instead of cutting vital MICA resources, the Allen government should be increasing services. Victoria's Ambulance Union has agreed the service is in crisis. A lady contacted my office recently, and I spoke to her again this morning. She reported that at 5 a.m. on the 23rd of January, she phoned for an ambulance as she was experiencing abdominal pain. The service called back at 5:15 a.m. to advise that no ambulance was available and it would be a 5-hour wait, and that a taxi could be sent to her premises to take her to hospital. But she was in pain and feeling very faint and didn't want to pass out in the taxi, so she declined the offer, and her son drove her to the hospital. This is a lady that has paid her ambulance service fees for years, and when she needed one, it wasn't there. And when she arrived at Bendigo Hospital and told the staff that there were no ambulances available, they were very surprised because there was no ambulances at the hospital either. Not that long ago, I was also contacted by a person whose family live in Donald, an elderly gentleman that had a fall in his own backyard, 200 metres from the Donald Hospital. He lay in pain on the concrete on his back in his backyard for 2 hours waiting for an ambulance that was coming all the way from Horsham. And regrettably, that gentleman died the next morning. But despite these issues, Labor are cutting services and resources across the state because the state is broke. Since it was elected almost a decade ago, Labor has introduced 53 new or increased taxes and charges while blowing out Victoria's debt to record levels. We are now the highest taxing state in Australia. But despite this fact, the Premier has signed Victoria up to build the suburban rail loop in Melbourne and said that there's no turning back. Jacinta Allen has called the first stage a milestone. I call it a millstone around Victoria's neck. There are already 1,000 people working on the suburban rail loop project. By 2026, there will be 4,000, and at the peak of the project, 8,000 people. According to the Parliamentary Budget Office, an independent assessor, this project is estimated to cost $200 billion, yet the federal government have only committed $2.2 billion. So where is the money coming from? Labor cannot manage money and they cannot manage projects. They are boring ahead with the suburban rail loop and digging our state deeper into debt while they cut services in regional areas. Our roads are not being maintained. We have 100-year-old bridges not being replaced. We have significant teacher vacancies. We have over 800 police vacancies. And now they are looking at cutting microservices in regional areas. While they spend big on Melbourne projects, they're also hiking work cover premiums, expanding payroll and land taxes, all to go towards the debt. The Victorians are currently paying $15 million every day in interest because of this massive debt. By the end of 2027, we'll be paying $24 million every day. Now, Ms Stitt earlier referred to the need to listen to paramedics. And yes, we do, but the government needs to be listening to the patients because it's their stories that are telling the reality of what's happening on the ground. So we are calling on the government to rule out any cuts to microservices in regional Victoria and to properly resource Ambulance Victoria. So I'm pleased to support this motion.